Oh, we got 4 thumbs up and everything. Good evening, one and all. Good evening, Phil Mayhew. You're on time. Well done, mate. Congratulations and welcome to the party. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our... Let me just turn that off for a start. I get notifications on my PC behind it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our continued live shows and reviews from the Bennett British Superbike Championship. Welcome along, my great friend, Kyle Campbell. Mate, welcome back. How are you?
Thank you very much. I love coming on now. I properly get excited. I'm hanging out my arse. But when I come on here, I feel alive. It's talking bikes with bike fans about bikes. It doesn't get any more better than that, does it really?
We got the best audience ever as well. We got some great people that join in. The regulars are here. There's more and more joining. Ian, good evening. Welcome along. Donington Park was Woody. We had a great time with Woody on Friday. Woody was 21 on Friday. Happy birthday again for Friday, Woody. Happy 21st, mate. Hope you had a fantastic weekend. Here we are. Sam Palmer. Well done, mate. You remembered. Mick Burrows, Steve Paul. Sorry I missed you at the weekend, mate. I have to apologise for that straight away. The weekend just got away from us, driver, and I do apologise. But, mate, what a weekend. What a weekend of action and subterfuge and stories and everything else. It's the Championship Challenge is well and truly lit, as in on fire rather than the kids speak of good.
Yeah. You had to make sure you got the right language out. No, what a weekend, Dave. I mean, you've been talking about it. The last 3 rounds is where it's at. We were both buzzing about this weekend because we were going to see who was made of what, the pressure, the tension. I mean, I was lucky enough to go on the grid on race 1, and I took your lovely wife. Sorry, Jen. But and one of her friends, because we got free tickets. And the tension, Dave, was off the scale. It was at that next level up. All the teams were just on edge, the top teams, you know what I mean? And you could see that anything, it was all to play for.
So much to gain, but so much to lose.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, I don't know where to start really. It's sort of, I had to watch race 2 again. It was brilliant. You know what I mean? I was like, did I actually see that? Yes, I did, because I watched it at Melbourne Look when they came round. And I was like, I need to see that properly and watch every single corner. And I watched the whole thing and I was still mesmerised.
It was absolutely fascinating, wasn't it?
It was.
Absolutely fascinating. That it's that race that Glenn can make that SC0 that he whinges about on a regular basis to anybody and everybody who'll listen. Fair dues, because it's an issue, but you know, you can only work with the tools you've got.
Yeah.
I got corrected on that once before by Jack Kennedy, and I will never use the same phrase again, especially when there's ladies present. But yeah, the SC0 with the 12 lap short race, he can just make it work. He can just dig in, and he manhandled that Hager PBM Ducati around Donington Park harder than I've ever seen him ride.
Breaking the lap record in the process.
Absolutely.
So he was on point. So I doff my cap to said
no
Ducati.
question.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I listened to his one of his interviews, and there was a certain Gary McCoy that I absolutely used to love watching in MotoGP in the 2-stroke era. And my God, and he said something. And he smiled when he said it. He went, "I felt like Gary McCoy out there," and he looks like Gary McCoy out there. And it's just like, what? Yes, we're having proper bike racing again. Loved it.
Donington always throws it up, doesn't it? It did it in race 3 back in May, and it's doing it now in race 2. It was brilliant. But that was Glenn's opportunity to close the gap.
Yeah.
And close the gap he did over the weekend. When you look at his points tally, Kyle he won. He was the most winningest in the points, followed by Tommy, followed by Glenn, followed by Tommy. So it was a desperate weekend for Tommy in terms of the championship fight. Because a track where Honda is traditionally so good, in Tommy's terms and by Tommy's standards, they were awful. And they're his words, not ours. You know, he still came out with a massive fistful of points and a couple of podiums and a pole position as well. But But it wasn't enough because Glenn was so strong, and Kyle, apart from race 3, where he just could not run the lines that the R1 enjoy, he just could not get to the front and break Glenn. He could have had a hat trick this weekend, ifs and buts and pots and pans, shoulda, woulda, coulda, and all that malarkey. It was fascinating that nobody wanted to make a mistake. Nobody wanted to not finish the race. A DNF would have been catastrophic for a championship challenge for either of the top two. Not so much for Glenn because he still has that gap, but a DNF would have seen him out of the championship charge.
I love the segue there. You've just led me into my biggest loser of the weekend. We always do this, don't we? We choose the biggest
loser of the week.
I'm going to leave my winner to the end, but that we were going to talk about it. So
yeah, do it.
We knew that Christian was coming into the championship with a mathematical chance if he could have pulled off the performances he did in round 1 of the first time they came to Donington, which was round 3, I think it was. I just think it's so sad to see. Jermaine, he just couldn't get the same out of the Ducati that Glenn did.
No, nowhere near.
It's sad to see, but yeah, that's him. He's at the championship, and this was the weekend that he did it. So for me, to go into your last round, knowing that you might, mathematically, if you win everything and the whole world collapses behind you, it's not going to happen. Do you mean we know that it's a 3-horse, 2-horse race?
No, it's a 3-horse, 2-horse race. I still think Glenn needs snookers.
Yes.
I do. I still think he needs snookers. He is. He's still on the cusp, and I think if he doesn't finish in the top 2 in race 1 at Brands Hatch, then effectively that's championship over. He needs to be 70 points behind, by which he mathematically he can be, because he's 46 at the minute. So a DNF for Glenn and Kyle winning would see Glenn out of the championship charge. He said, just going off the top of my head in my really, really bad maths, because I'm rubbish at maths. Always have been, always will be. There's a lot to go at. A lot to go at. Loser. Who did I have down as my loser? In the championship terms, and because I think generally speaking, and the loser thing is difficult. It's Tommy. I feel for him, and I don't like the word loser. He was the least successful of the top 3, so therefore he's the loser. It's a tough word, but my winner isn't in the top 3, which is weird. So we'll come to that in a bit. But I think for Kyle to do what he did this weekend, it's absolutely it's paramount that he does the same at Brands Hatch. The one thing that nobody wants to happen at Brands Hatch is
a crash,
rain.
Well, if we do, Storm will win, so that'll be good. Do you know what I mean? Storm will just
come
through. Yeah,
pretty much. He was at but dry races again this weekend and completely absent. I know he had a crash on Friday, but he was completely uninjured. But he was anonymous all weekend, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, we had him up on stage. We're just going to talk on that in a minute. He had up on stage, and he was really down all weekend. And normally he's very, very, he engages with his fans and the crowd. And we had to drag him up on the last thing at 3 o'clock on the Sunday. And once he got into it, he was fine. But you could just see he's so frustrated. He's doing everything he can. He's pushing to the limit. But that bike, and you've talked about it, it's a 3rd-tier bike. There's only so much you can get out of it, and he has to move on. But that's for another story. But you're talking about snookers. There was nearly a snooker on, I think it was the 2nd race, when Tommy lost the front coming down Craner curves, and it was like, oh my effing yeah. And then
and that was just for Danny on his outside.
Yeah, and Danny was coming, and Danny's like, yes, I've got him, and I'm like, and that's the fine line that the riders are on at the moment, isn't it? It's just.
But it is. You're looking for tenths of a second here, there, and everywhere, and that's the nature of the championship and how the organisers and the rule makers have made it. is that you are literally fighting for tenths of a second everywhere, which is why the boys are riding as hard as they do, because there's no quarter asked or given. And it is the best domestic championship in the world. There's Moto America, All Japan, Australia. They can't hold a candle to what our boys are doing. And that's testament to the organisers. Like we said before, Glenn and the Ducatis and the BMWs are struggling with the SC0 rear. The Yamahas and the Hondas can make it work better than anybody else. But I don't see that changing for next year. So I think it's almost a case of put up and shut up. But yeah, like as Bob Barton says, even when the track's cool and the wind was cold on Sunday, it wasn't the warmest weekend I've ever had in October or late September at Donington Park. The nights are always cold there. I nearly went into Celine Dion then. Nobody wants to hear that.
No.
You don't. So don't be giving your comments and everything else. Jen's heard it before. She knows. She's heard my Celine renditions. So yeah, for them to all do what they did, and for the top three to not DNF, and not that many crashes really over the weekend generally, I didn't think, in the Superbike class.
No, there
apart
wasn't.
From race 3, as Jen's put in the comments, Michael Hallam, give the fans what they want, Dave. You should be at work. Well, you are at work, but you should be doing some work, Michael Hallam. I've lost my track now because of him. What was I saying?
You were saying about crashes. So
thank you. Yeah, it seemed quite a crash-free weekend, apart from race 3, where we had the incident with Leon on Billy that then took out Jason and Christian, which is just wrong place, wrong time. However, had their performances been better, they wouldn't have been there in the first place. Harsh sounding, but they're better than 12th and 13th.
Yeah, you put yourself in the right position, don't you? I mean, talking about someone putting himself in the right position, who we had a quick discussion before we came on air. A certain Ryan Vickers, I think, will genuinely at Brands Hatch play a pivotal part in the championship. If he does, or he produces what he did in July, he could be absolute spoiler. And we don't like team orders, and we're going to probably maybe touch on that one of the subjects later on. But we were talking about this when Bayliss was against Edwards and he was holding up him, so Ruben Zaus at Imola was going to catch him. And it was one of the most fascinating. I'd never experienced this before, and it was just like, this is unbelievable. But Edwards was so smart, and every time Bayliss tried to back him up, he'd go past him and then have to get past him and slow up. And we were saying it was such a cool race, wasn't it?
It was. And I can see similar happening at Brands Hatch. Is Ryan going to play the teammate? Is Ryan going to just go off into the distance and like, boys, if you can catch me, then we'll play. But if you can't, then I'll be out the front if you need me. It's like the world against Glenn or the world and his brother against Glenn Irwin. or the world against Glenn Irwin and his brother, should I say. That's a better way of putting it.
Yeah.
Tommy's got Andrew, or has he? Kyle's also got Danny Kent on another Yamaha, who'll be desperate to get a win before the end of the season. He's got 3 races left to bring McCann's Racing their first win. They've had podiums all season. They've had podiums. I'd love to see them take a win before the end of the season for the efforts that Tim and Sonia and Spanner and Paul Morton and the rest of the team and Emma have all put in this year in their debut, it's not their debut, because they were with Jack last year, but in their sophomore season. I'd love to see them take a win, but then where does that put it with Kyle and Tommy and Glenn?
Yeah.
And who else? You can't see many more getting in the mix. Maybe Charlie Nesbitt can do a little bit of damage in the top 5, but that's assuming that all 3 are out the front again.
Yeah, I mean, and you're right. There's no one that's really. I mean, we had Jack that stepped up at Cadwell Park and Alton Park, but he goes well at those circuits. They are his circuits. So yeah, you can't really see anybody stepping up. But Andrew, now, so we just briefly touched on this when we had a chat on stage at the fan merch stall on Saturday, that there was a lot of chatter about certain Andrew just holding back and not taking his brother, and that was pretty harsh, wasn't it? And I've got mixed feelings. It's like the old saying, and you said it, I've said it. We all know at this age, blood's thicker than. So that one.
No, it is. No, it is. Blood's thicker than water. I was just reading a couple of comments through it as you were talking. Sam Palmer, or we will have what we always used to call a shaky car to close the pack up before the last few laps in the last races at Brands. I remember seeing a picture once that somebody had photoshopped Paul Bird Motorsport on the side of the safety car. You never know, do you? You never know what's coming. Never. But blood, 100% blood's thicker than water. But my goodness, did it stir it all up on social media?
Yeah.
With even from a layman, you can't deny it looked like Andrew had the potential to pass. The only person that knows for sure whether he could or couldn't is Andrew.
Yeah, and you'd hate to question his integrity, wouldn't you? It's one of those just, I don't know, untouchable things. We were talking about this. If my boys, if it was Lockie behind Harris, I know Lockie would let Harris win. Other way around, maybe not, but Harris is ruthless. Lockie's got that, lover in him. But yeah, it's a...
Who pays the wages?
Yeah, I know, but it's like you grow up.
I'm playing devil's advocate for this.
I know, and that's what I love about it, because it's just this fascinating side of things. We didn't think it could get any more interesting, did we? After last year, half a point, two teammates on the same bike.
Super intense.
This is just like there's so more variables from left and right. You're like, okay, you've got different manufacturers, different bikes, different riders, teammates that are fast, and it's like you couldn't really ask for anything more, could we?
No, different. The question from Jen downstairs in the kitchen, who's moderating. Thank you, darling. Dave, would the team be able to see on data if he was braking or not giving it the berries? Probably not. Probably not, because he was in a battle, wasn't he? There were 4 or 5 riders. Charlie Nesbitt was in there. Danny Kent fought his way into there. So his way back up there. So there were 4 or 5 riders, and you can't. It's very, very difficult to know for sure. They will have an idea, because they'll know what his qualifying laps were like. But that'll never make public knowledge. So for the rest of us, it's mainly conjecture. From what we could see, I mean, we were watching from the Melbourne Loop, and I'm not on the bike. But even for TV comms to point it out, for Stephen Witt to point it out, which Andrew made a point of on the grid for race 3. That Witt had said something and kind of stirred the pot a little bit and stirred up the hatred, as Andrew put it. But he's big enough and ugly enough to take that. He's not bothered. He's had it many, many times on the BSB forum. Mostly misguided. And Andrew's point, he's a lovely fella, but you put him on a bike and pull that visor down, and he turns into a completely different animal. Dave Greenslade, put yourself in Andy's position. What would you do? It's difficult. I don't know, because I've never raced. But are you loyal to your brother or to your paymasters?
I mean, I look at the big picture. He's not fighting for the championship. He didn't want to take him out. It's still a move's a move. You know what I mean? And maybe Glenn didn't know it was his brother behind him.
Oh, we did.
But hats off to Andrew. In race 3, when Tommy was going backwards, he played an amazing defending role.
Hands up if you were waiting for Andrew to pass Tommy.
I just knew he wouldn't.
I can be a cynical bugger at times. I just sat watching it, just waiting for it to happen, and because it just made me chuckle. Absolutely made me chuckle. I'm just sat there looking at it, going, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
and he did. He played the great teammate game there, and he did shadow Tommy well to stop anybody falling back into anybody else's clutches. But honestly, most definitely, yeah. But the general consensus is that Andrew held back. He also didn't get involved, and he didn't put a difficult move. He didn't want to compromise. The worst thing Andrew could have done is gone for the Melbourne Loop under braking, took the front and taken his brother out. Then where would they stand?
Yeah, that's not
so. There's mitigating circumstances for all of it. If Glenn had had a problem, I'm sure Andrew would have overtaken. I can't say it's right, wrong, or indifferent because only Andrew knows.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I think we've covered that, and it's one of those we had to talk about it, and we both felt a little bit uncomfortable about it because it's all out there. And I'd love to get them up on stage and interview them. So talking about that, one of the points that I thought about this weekend, Dave, and maybe you might reflect on this as well, is that when we interview these young riders, because I interviewed Joe Talbot, I interview a lot of them, we have an expectation as experienced, BSB fans, and our expectation when I'm asking some of these questions, I think you're only 20 years old. You have no idea. You're still learning. And I genuinely, I put it out there to him. I said, I'm really sorry, but I'm asking you as a 52-year-old, and you've only been racing like a couple of years. So, in a handful of years. So the expectation as fans of the sport that we put on these young riders, it's quite high, isn't it? And that's something that I'm going to take away now and think about when I pose challenging questions. I think they should be able to come up with the answer straight away. I mean,
which they can't. At 20 years old, thrust into the limelight of the Bennett's British Superbike Championship with OMG Racing, one-time title winners as we have this conversation now, potentially twice title winners in 3 seasons. It's a big step, and it's a lot of pressure for young shoulders. You look at a lot of the riders. Max, Charlie, Rory, they're still 22, 23. They haven't got the experience of Brooksy and Jace and Leon. It's a big step. But then you look at them, what the pressure they go through in GPs at David Alonso and people like that, and Pedro Acosta.
Yeah.
You can magnify that by 50, but the principle remains the same. And I had a long chat with Joe at Alton Park, just down by the scrutineering bay, just the two of us, nothing on. I've known him for 4 or 5 years, so we sit and we stand and we have a chat, and we're explaining to him that when he steps up into that superbike class, the one thing that he's well known for is wearing his heart on his sleeve, and his emotions get the better of him, which is brilliant because that shows the real person that Joe Talbot is.
Yeah.
And he can, excuse me, as Jen refers to it, as a resting bitch face. He always looks cross. Brooksy's the same. They've always got something on their mind. There's always something going on. They're always Jen, we keep talking to me for. I'm busy. I'm chatting. They don't know what they don't know. So in ways, it's easier to ride without the history. Yeah, you're right. It's absolutely right.
Yeah. Well, look what Pedro Costa's doing. Do you mean?
Yeah.
You're not supposed to take that line, Pedro.
Known knowns, known unknowns, and unknown unknowns.
Yes.
They're the three.
Such a cool saying, isn't it?
Yeah, and he's absolutely right. But we were just chatting about being in the paddock, and if somebody stops you for a photo, somebody stops you for an autograph, take every photo, sign every autograph for 2 reasons. Who's the bald fella?
Thank you. That'll be Dave Neal, by the way.
With my officially 3D printed hair that was done this morning. Kev, meet Kyle Campbell.
Hello, Kev.
Kyle does the fan merch stand. He chats to riders, and he's the compere of the fan merch show at BSB every weekend. A great friend of mine and a great addition to the show. In terms of Joe, and it's the same for any young rider. Sign every autograph, pose for every selfie, regardless of where you're at and what you are doing, because you don't know when it's going to happen again, because you're in this little bubble and you're here today, but you're soon forgotten when you step out of the championship, and it all comes to a point. And what you're going to do, you're going to make a kid's day. And he's going to remember that for ages and
So
ages and ages. Go on.
I'm going to give you a really good example of this, which happened. So Storm Stacey come up. We'd run a prize where we gave away 4 grid passes. And I've been leading up for the 4 hours, to the point.
Yep.
We announced the winner, and one of the winners was one of Storm's fans. And Storm was up on stage, and she burst into tears. It showed what it meant. One, that her fan crush is up on stage and gave her a hug and spoke to her, but she'd won something, and that to me is what it's about. And I've been trying to get Joe up on stage, and you could see he was a bit awkward and uncomfortable. But I'm thinking, Joe, that's going to be magnified now when in the Bennett Split Superbike. You're going to have Wit sticking out. You're going to have cameras. You're going to have Eurosport, Disney, whatever it is, Disney Plus. They're going to be wanting a piece of you, and you need to be able to be on point. Do you mean? Because you say the wrong thing, you disrespect a sponsor or a team or a teammate or your own team. You mean that's it? You're like, hang on a minute, did he just say that live on TV?
And unless you have someone like Tommy Hill on your side, and somebody as a rider coach and a media, a lot of the riders that are coming up from the support classes aren't media trained.
No.
And I know this is something that Matt Dunn's working on in MotoGP and Red Bull Rookies and things like that. You become quite polished when you go through Red Bull Rookies, as Danny Kent has done. Rory's very good at it. Charlie's very good at it because he's been out in Spain. Max is very good at it. They're media savvy in a lot of ways. But when you're coming up through your Scott Swans and your Joe Talbots, there's nobody out there at the moment to be able to say to them, look, you've got 30 seconds with this TV crew. Don't thank your sponsors. We can see them. Yeah. Tell the story of the race. Say how much you cut him up and you did this. And when he went underneath you and lifted you up and you thought, oh, you great pillock, I'll get you back for that, without offending people, because we can't say things these days. But with the heat of the moment and the adrenaline that's running through them after a podium finish, it's brilliant to listen to them tell their stories. And Joe is getting there with that. But not everybody can be a Brad Peary or a Storm. But as they come through and they take notice from those boys, it just makes such a difference to hear somebody enjoy their race rather than going, I'd like to thank the Shed Company for sponsoring me. This is what I've done. It's like, you're not paying for that. I can see that on your leathers and your helmet. Tell me the story about the race. Tell me about your character. And if the rumors are true and Swanee's making the move up, we know Joe's making the move up. There's room and there are seats becoming available more than we anticipated, I think. After this weekend, I know Spig's waiting for the gossip and things like that, so we will get on to who we think and potentially is going where, and the rumors that are coming through. It's a fascinating time of year, mate. And things just keep accelerating, things keep changing. The spanners thrown in the works. The Eurosport comms team put it out there at the weekend that Jason O'Halloran is leaving the championship and going off to World Endurance, which I think at his age and at his point in his career is a brilliant move.
Totally, especially after his big accident. So I was lucky enough to have Jason up on stage. And, we did the general chit-chat, how he's feeling. You could see his fingers, because they're obviously still recovering from that. And that's definitely affecting him, considering he won the race 3 back in May. And when I asked him, he smiled, but it was a genuine smile. And he knew, but he couldn't tell me. And it's just like, that is a consummate professional. My love of the man has just gone up one because, he had a proper full-on beard. And I went, what's with the beard? And he went, and I just thought, there's a man who knows his own way in life.
It's not the most impressive beard I've ever seen, though.
No, it's a bit wiry. But anyway, we won't go there. You mean?
Get well soon, Jace.
Yeah, please. But yeah, it's fascinating. So, I mean, we might as well, while we're on the topic of gossip and scandal, let's not jump about. So you've got Jason O'Halloran. There's rumours that a certain Leon, maybe Leon Haslam, is possibly jumping and leaving. We know Ryan Vickers is going. So that's 3 seats. I've heard rumours that the Rocket sponsorship may be going. But then at the same time, the Rocket sponsor the Leon Haslam Academy. And you think, that's amazing for riders. I don't want that to go.
But if the Rocket money isn't there, then they can't sponsor it.
Yeah, hopefully
and that's the difficult thing, that the academy that Leon has set up is fantastic. They locked out the podium in Super Teens on Saturday, which is absolutely brilliant. And to have that umbrella and Leon and Ron's input and Ian Hopcroft as well, who team manages the whole effort. But if the sponsorship's like anything, if the sponsorship money isn't there, what are you going to do? It's the same with any team and rider. We're looking for sponsorship on the podcast, and you look at what it costs to sponsor a Superbike team or Leon's academy with all the hospitality and with the awnings that they need, and there's always an input from mum and dad and sponsors to get the riders in there in the first place. But at least it mitigates cost a little bit. And imagine what it would cost then to buy the bike and do it themselves, and dad and lad out the back of a van. They lose a little bit of input and they lose a little bit of experience. And it just makes life difficult for some of those riders that kind of had that run. But I also saw this weekend, and I'm sure it was mentioned by the great Duncan Vincent on commentary, that one of the McManus bikes was actually McManus Racing for this weekend. I'm sure he said James's bike was McManus Racing, not Rocket Haslam Racing, on the two Ducatis that the brothers run.
Yeah.
So
what's your thoughts there then? Are they jumping before they're pushed?
Maybe the money's just not there to run both boys. There's been the consistency with Eugene and with James there's no doubt in the boys' talent, no doubt in the boys' pace, but there's often a bit of a crash damage bill at the end of a few weekends this year. So maybe it's got to a certain level. But I mean, who knows? But as Maggie says, they could try and find another sponsor. They could, but it depends how much it is. Who knows how much it costs and how much rocket we're putting in, especially for the whole team. It's there isn't a lot of money in that team at the moment.
I think it's all smoke and mirrors.
In Leon's team at the moment, it's difficult. The money has gone probably as far as it can go. So that he definitely needs another big sponsor to come in and help him if he wanted to run his own team. But the rocket money is, I think it's still part of BMW, but whether it all goes to another team or whether they scale back on what they put into BSB, I don't know. It'd be interesting to talk to Gary Mason on that and understand just what's going to happen for 2025.
It was interesting. So a couple of things. So Gary Mason was in talking to Stuart McLaren from Fan Merch over the weekend. So you mean read into what you're that, but I've got a great story. So last year, near the end of the season, we were at Alton Park. I had Samai up and from Dow Racing, and she was very excited that she'd signed Danny Buchan, and she couldn't keep it in. And anyway, she sort of blurted out on stage, and I went, "So it's official now then?" And she's like, "Don't tell anybody, don't tell anybody." You've just told anybody. Everyone's laughing, and it's like, she got off stage, she went, "Why did you make me say it?" And I went, "I didn't, Samai, you told me. You just happened to be on the microphone." So anyway, read into this what you think. So we know that Dow are going to a Honda. Yep. So
yes,
I think that's official. They've parted. It's all on social media and everything else. They did a big release after 6 or 7 years it was, which is
they
a long
haven't
time.
officially released Honda yet, though, have they?
No, they haven't. But
hey,
I think we can read into it.
Yeah.
So we think one of the current Honda riders will be jumping on one of the seats. But this is I'm just putting it out there. So I'm on stage with Storm Stacey. There's a huge crowd. I look to my right and there's Samai. And she comes up on stage and she was all giddy and giggly. And I'm going, "Have you got something to tell us, Samai?" And she's like, "Don't make me do it again." And I went, so anyway, this is why people listen to us, because, Dave, we've got 102. That's the most
Which
we've
is
ever
fantastic. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. That's the most we've had on our live shows and a post BSB. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're enjoying what you're watching. Thank you very much.
Maybe that's why they tune in, because we are sometimes in a position that we don't have to. We're not going to tell everything we hear. Do you mean? But another little tip: I was in the toilet right next to where they come off the.
Where's this one going?
Yeah, I know. So they come off the podium. So I'm in the toilet, and there was a crew chief talking to another mechanic, and it was a very interesting chat. And I was just thinking,
come on.
I can't. Well, it's something about. So we know that OMG have got 3 at the moment. They've got 2 confirmed riders, but Alan has said he's going to have 3 bikes on the grid.
Yes.
So we know that those 2 have crew chiefs. Who's going to be the other crew chief to the up and coming man? Is it going to be Tommy, or is it going to be another crew chief from another team?
Another crew chief from another team.
I've heard also rumours. Well, anyway, no,
we're having a look at that. Somebody asked the question earlier on, and I can't cycle back through it. Jen's moderating beautifully downstairs.
Thanks,
Joe
Nick.
will have a crew chief coming in from elsewhere, which will be announced in time. That will become apparent in time. But what it also does is free another rider up, because he won't be working with said rider in Superbikes.
Yep.
For 2025. So it's different. It's not for me to say until it becomes. But currently, crew chief is working with a Superbike rider who may not be with that team for next year, who will then move to OMG Racing to work with Joe and develop Joe, which, with Ryan leaving, frees up Dave Harris, who was the championship winning crew chief of 2022 with Bradley Ray.
Oh, yeah. We put the pieces together, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, so Mick Burrows is a good friend of mine. I don't know if you can put pictures on, but Mick had a little bit of an off on Friday night coming back from the campsite, and he looked like he'd been mugged by about a rugby team. Bless him.
Oh, crikey, Mick. Sorry to hear that.
I hope you're okay, dude. I mean, you can't get any better looking than you already are. he went down hard. Anyway, I'll
get well soon, Mick, and hopefully you're feeling you'd probably be feeling a little bit secondhand right now, but hopefully over the next few days and a couple of weeks, you'll start to feel a lot better.
We'll have a drink or 2 at Brands, Mick. But yeah, so the rumor mill's going, isn't it? Where's Josh Brooks going? I mean, that wasn't it was sort of announced at Cadwell Park when I interviewed her name Faye, and she said, "Oh yeah, the riders weren't confirmed, but Hickey was staying." So to me, that was a big, massive hint that. But also, well, Batham's have had a big presence in a certain BMW team, and they have a history of BMWs. I don't know.
Where are you going with this, dude? Go on.
Would there be another? So if one BMW team with a little Haslam disappears, there's another BMW team that's going to maybe slot into that place. I don't know.
I'm not sure Batham's can afford to do a full season of BSB. I'm not sure. I think they've got their work cut out with the roads. Who did they run this year? They ran Craig Neve. Did they run somebody else? I can't remember. I forget, and I apologize, but they definitely ran Craig Neve. They have done for a couple of seasons.
Yeah.
We had, or I had, because Jennifer was otherwise engaged on Thursday, 2 3/4 hours with Josh Brooks. Absolutely fascinating. That will be out next Wednesday. This Wednesday is Fraser Rogers, which is a fascinating chat. For those of you who don't know Fraser, he's had his ups and downs through the sport, but there's no doubt in his talent. He's a class rider, but he just hasn't had the breaks. He's been the architect of his own downfall at times. But now he's back in that Tag Honda fold, and he's starting to. But the story of his legs for the motocross accident, it's worth listening for that alone. But we spoke to Josh and we asked the question about next season, as you would expect, because that's what we do. We wanted to break a story and let people know. It's always difficult because it needs to be official and yada yada yada, and you have to do this. So we try and get some kind of idea of what's going on. But at this point in time, Josh looked at me and he says, "Dave," he says, "even I don't know. There are options and you can probably guess where they are, but they have to be right." He wants to do the roads again. He wants to do the TT. He did his fastest ever lap this year at 134. Only 4 other people are in the 134 club. He was second in the senior TT. he can perform at the TT. There's no question about it. So whether it has to be that he goes with a BSB team and then a roads team like Paget's, or he can find a team that will do both, and they are very limited because at the moment Dow Racing have fallen out with TT organisers, and as we stand at this point in time, aren't doing the TT. I haven't got my glasses on, so I can't read these comments going up at the bottom.
Samai also said that she said they will be riding up at the top end of the championship, and to do that, you have to put good riders on your bike. So
yes,
we know Josh is a good rider. We know that the Honda now is coming good. Well, as long as you're in the major Honda factory.
This is it. This is if it's all right taking a Honda on as a team.
Yeah,
but we haven't got any data.
Yeah,
Dow Racing have run Kawasaki since they started. So taking on a new manufacturer always comes with the risk that you don't have any data. And every rider's different. Every rider has a different feel and setup on the bike. They could maybe get some information from Honda in terms of mechanical setup, in terms of electronic setup, sorry. But for mechanical setup and chassis, it's going to be it's a big ask. So maybe if they employed someone who has experience of the 2024 Fireblade, which is, I suspect, what they'll be running, you'd be remiss not to sign somebody from another Honda team, wouldn't you? With the experience of the bike already.
Who jumped off a manufacturer after 6 years onto the Honda, is now staying on Honda, but just moving teams.
And if you need any plumbing doing,
yes,
he'd be really useful.
Yeah, and I could pick up the phone because it's a 01522 number. Google that one.
It's a Lincoln number. Nothing official, but all of the rumours in the paddock at the moment are pointing to Lee Jackson having agreed a deal with Dow Racing. It's across all the forums and everything else. I've just seen a comment go through that says that Davy won't go to FHO. Strange things have happened.
Can I just say, I just saw that as well. So I was having very...
What do you know? Because you have links with FHO with fan merch and...
Well, it was actually nobody in FHO. I was on the grid and I happened to be talking to somebody and he said... He told the person to go at Thruxton. He said, you need to go to that team. So I think it was a done deal by Thruxton.
That early?
Yeah.
Okay.
Allegedly.
Interesting.
Conjecture and rumor. So my theory in it, and this is we are just fans talking about stuff. I think FHO will be Davy Todd, Peter Hickman.
What a team,
man!
What a team.
And
what I would like to see is Dow put their issues with the TT to bed and go back to what they're really good at. As well, and they've got to build in BSB. They're still, I think, yet to stand on a podium in BSB. I'm not sure what their best finish is.
I think it was 10th or something when it was just before Dean Harrison left, wasn't it? That last season.
Yeah, because Danny struggled this year. I can't think where he's been.
Stronger.
Danny, I forgot. Yeah, has he had a 6th place at some point? But they need to be podium. They need to be top 5 week in, week out. And if they do sign Josh Brooks, then he will have that experience along with potentially Lee Bob. But if they can also put to bed the issues with the TT, having Josh with the same crew, I mean, they've won. The team have won the senior. They've won multiple TTs and podiums with Dean. So Johnny and Staffo and the team, that they know what they've got to do at the TT, and to have Josh Brooks on it in the 134 club, kind of a lot of this just makes sense.
It does.
It just makes sense for it to happen, and it's just a matter of planets aligning and things falling into place to make it happen.
It was quite a lot of fans. Obviously, they listened to the show and they obviously watched this, and they were coming up and saying, "It's funny how Josh has all of a sudden got quite fast." Do you mean because I don't know. Do you mean he's got his job now to show that he's doing? But no, I've been fortunate enough in the last 2 years to have food and hospitality, and you see them, and you can see he wears his heart on his sleeve. He hates, he won't even talk to me at all or any media when he's having a bad one. Do you mean he's like he does what he needs to do? He's very, very professional, But if it's anything extra, he's like, no, I'm not even interested. But yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? So who else? So
Storm.
Yeah, man.
That's the other conundrum.
Where's he going to go? What seats are left for him?
What's it effectively from what we can gather at the moment? If the biggest word in motorcycle racing, if the rumors are to be believed, there is a seat at FS3.
Oh yeah.
There is, if Davy does move to FHO, there is a seat at Taz.
Yeah.
There we go. If Lee, I'm there. You're all right. If Lee Bob has gone to Dow, then there's a seat at Hawk.
Yeah.
So that's 3 at least.
Okay, so I'm just going to throw someone in the mix. So I interviewed Danny Buchan 3 times. So we were watching with Terry Reimer, and because obviously he's working now as a rider coach, isn't he?
Lovely fella.
Yeah, totally. What a gentleman. And he remembers me, and I'm like, this is Terry Reimer, man. How cool is that? I keep having to pinch myself. I'm a bit like Billy Connolly at the moment. I had an hour conversation with Michael Rutter, and I genuinely, Dave, I got up and walked out of hospitality going, that's one of it. And it was just like a normal dude chat. I know they're just normal guys, but when you've put them up on a pedestal for so long, and I walked away going, I don't care. I will defend that man. I don't care if they think he's as dirt as dishwater. He is a top bloke. And anyway, so Danny Buchan, back onto where we are now. So he's got a bad injury, hasn't it? You interviewed him. He's got a really nasty shoulder injury and 4 broken bones in his foot. He said he's unofficially retired, 98%, but he is talking to at least 2 teams. So
that's right.
But he said, I'll only take the ride if it's competitive.
And yeah, he's still got it in him. I know with Sam Palmer, who's in the comments at the moment, and he's a brilliant insight into racing. Sam knows his stuff beautifully. He was on with us a couple of weeks ago in the comments. Sam knows him really, really well. And as he says there's your insight into it straight away. He's going to be riding in the UK Minimoto Championship next year. That's it.
Okay.
That's his best offer of a ride.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Danny's quite pragmatic about it all. He put that great post, as Big Kit Kev put up earlier, but he put that great post out earlier on about job seekers. I don't think it's been fully announced or announced officially, but it appears that Danny and Braden are looking elsewhere for next year. For Braden, it's difficult. He hasn't just quite hit the marks with the Superbike. It's been tough to see. Great that he got the points at Alton Park, but in terms of results and moving forward up the field, it's just not happened for him. And there are a plethora of reasons for that. But what it says in black and white, that's what it says. And you're only as good as your last results. And it's a results-based game. And it is brutal. It is tough. But that's the way the way. And Johnny doesn't pull any punches at Dow.
No, we're in a quite fortunate position, aren't we? We get to see riders at their most vulnerable. We get to see them when they're high and they're low, and we chat to them, and you get to know them on a real different level. But I had Braden up on the Saturday, and bear in mind he's very, very amenable, and the team are fantastic, and they let us have access to the pit and stuff. And he came up, and it was genuinely. He told his story it was his eulogy, and it was so sad because he's genuinely passionate, and he's achieved his dream of riding at the pinnacle of what he has wanted to do, and it's not worked out. And you just think that's tough. You mean, and I admire the man, and but
and you don't want it to leave a sour taste either, do you? Because that old adage that it's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. So he's been a British Superbike Championship rider. He's scored points in the Bennett British Superbike Championship. And I know he's fiercely proud of that. Braden's story is fantastic. Him and Eliza packed everything up from Australia, came over here to basically to seek fame, fortune, and success. A massive risk.
Yeah,
a massive risk. And Braden's one of the nicest guys in the paddock. He really is. He's super to chat to. I've been fortunate enough, as a lot of people know, to do the rider chats for FS3 and for Dow Racing in hospitality this season. And I managed to make him smile on Sunday, because the hospitality gave him a round of applause for getting his 2 points at Alton Park, because that was a realization of a dream.
Yep.
And that's something that nobody will ever take away from him. And that's just something he can carry forward, whether he goes back into stock, whether he goes back to Australia, nobody knows. I'd love to see him continue in the UK. He makes for a brilliant stock rider, without a doubt. And if Swanee's moving up, if we know Joe Talbot's moving up, as Kev's just said there, what about Luke Mossey? Luke Mossey's been fantastic in Superstock. It sounds like Davy Todd's moving to Superbike. So there's some big gaps in the Superstock Championship coming up, and Braden could quite easily fill one of those and be a championship challenger.
What most people probably don't know, maybe you would know, Dave, is that he was diagnosed with diabetes as well.
Absolutely.
It came, like a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
We went back home, wasn't feeling great, went through got diabetes. So he's had to learn to manage that as a top athlete, because these riders are, pinnacle apex athletes, aren't they? You know what I mean? They're on point. And that as well. And
there's a podcast about that, about Braden and his diabetes.
There is, and there's really cool.
Came out about 12 months ago.
Yeah, that's where I got my information from. Honestly, you are my source of information. I love it.
It was lovely, and I don't think he's watching. He's certainly not popped up in the comments. But Steve Day gave us a lovely shout on Eurosport yesterday at the end of race 3. From the Kyle Ride interview that we did a couple of weeks ago. So I'm very, very grateful, and always amazed who listens to the show and who watches the show. It never ceases to blow me away. The great people that we've got in the comments tonight, the 112 people that are watching, your fine self, it never ceases to amaze me that from a little back bedroom in East Lancashire and a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of fun, people sit down and watch us and understand what we're doing. So thank you. It's always hugely appreciated. And thank you, mate, as well.
No, man, I still find this surreal, and I always will. It's when I went on the grid, and I'd given some tickets away, and we went on with the winners, and they were just like kids, and I was as well. And Clifford from 1P Mobile, lovely man, really, really nice. And he said, "You still like this?" And I went, "How can you not? If the day I get bored of standing here like a kid in a sweetie factory, and there's so much bling to look at as well, because the more you look, the more you see. The more you see, the more you start to understand. And it's just like, oh my God, look at that swing arm, look at that, look at this bit of aero kit. Look, man,
I am mechanically inept.
Genuinely,
if you want to, if anything, if anybody wants to take the mickey out of me, I have no mechanical knowledge whatsoever. I don't know how an engine works, this suck, squeeze, bang, blow malarkey. And I've got a very basic layman's terms on how electronics work. I know that tires are black and round, and some last a bit longer than others. And I've got no idea. I used to have this long conversation with some great friends over the years. And they talk about spring rates, and they talk about clicks, and they talk about this, that, and the other. And like, yep, good, nice. Yeah. Walk away going like, my head hurts. I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. And I would like to have Phil Mayhew, whose dad is the great Chris Mayhew, one of the greatest engine builders this country has ever seen. And so yeah, thanks. So there you go. Jennifer knows more about electronics than me. Absolutely true. We've got a few more. One or two. Who is Team Honda next year? We'll go through some of these later on as well. We don't know. Tommy and Andrew at this point in time.
Oh, I heard a rumor. Can we talk about that?
I heard a rumor.
You're not a singer either.
No.
So we all know
who sang that. Let us know in the comments. I can't remember.
Bananarama.
Yes, it was it.
Bananarama. Bucks Fizz.
No, Bananarama. Yeah, anyway, carry on. Sorry, before we start losing people.
So we know that the Honda UK is becoming the official Honda team, aren't they? They're bringing two Japanese technicians who are going to come and live in Lath and work with the team. Harv's going to be overall manager. This is all, again, conjecture. But, and Tommy possibly being a test rider for World Superbikes.
What, like an R&D team?
Possibly, but don't forget, you can't. We don't have the electronics that they do in the World Superbikes. But Tommy made it clear when he signed that deal that he wanted to do a couple of wildcards. He's got 2 wildcards. He's already done one. The next one's in Jerez. So, if he wins the championship or gets in the top 3? Maybe it's in his clause that he says, "Okay, then I want more." What do you mean?
Yeah. We're going to sit down with Harv in 4 weeks' time. We're coming over to Louth, and we've been told, thanks, Mike, and good evening, mate. Our great friend from Scotland, Mike Anderson. Lovely, lovely fella. He's a lovely, lovely man. So we'll get the lowdown then from Harv into what's going on, because there's a huge amount that's there. As I said previously on the last show, we tried to get Harv to sit down with us at Alton Park and talk about the wild card and everything else. And he's like, yep, nope, can't talk about that, can't talk about this, can't talk about that. And it's like, right, there's no point in doing this then, because it's going to put you in a compromised position when you get to Cremona. And it's not quite going to work. So there's a massively big picture behind HRC at the moment. And it's interesting to what you say about that. So I'll be looking forward to finding out what's going on with Honda and bringing that to our great listeners and viewers' ears sometime in early November.
Oh yeah. So what else? So we've talked about we've had our losers. Your loser was Tommy. My loser was Christian. We've talked about the rumours. I think we've covered most of the rumours, haven't we? I think
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, now I suppose
pretty much, unless anybody can add to them in the comments.
Yeah. What about the winners? So who would be your winner?
Danny Kent.
Nice one.
Danny Kent. If I remember rightly, as I looked at the championship table, I genuinely think that that was his best week. Certainly his best point scoring weekend of the year. If he hadn't have got nerfed and had to run on in race 1, he would have certainly been a contender for that one. But I just thought he rode impeccably all weekend. I thought it was the Danny Kent that we want to see on a regular basis. It's the Danny Kent that we need to see at places like Cadwell and Alton, so he can really push that championship charge on. The kid is absolutely class. Sam will come to the calendar shortly, because that came out on Thursday.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, we need to talk about the calendar.
Who's Bike Kev?
Big Hit Kev.
Reading going to PBM.
Right. Let's clear that one up right now. Unless he's released from his BMW contract, Scott Redding isn't going anywhere. And that BMW contract that Michael Bartolami put together with Sean Muir and Mark Bongers at BMW is absolutely watertight. And it will cost BMW a fortune to break it. There's 1 year left, which is why at Cadwell, Scott said he's going to come back to BSB, but it might not be yet. The only way I think he would come back at the moment is if BMW put him there. But there aren't many BMW options. So if he's a factory BMW rider, the only place that he could go is FHO.
Or Rocket, because
Rocket's Leon's team. It's Leon's team, isn't it? So it depends if they want to take that team on and fund Leon and Scott Redding in the same team.
He's still the best BMW every single week. And they're not the official, factory ride.
He is.
So the bike's got it. They just need a few little things with the brakes.
Which makes you wonder if it is Hickey and Davy at FHO next year, that's still not potentially an assault on the British Superbike title. That is a Rhodes team.
Rhodes
because Davy doesn't have experience in British Superbikes. He's done half a season with Paget's.
Okay, here's something. I've just thought about it as you were talking. FHO, a bit like OMG,
Oh, Big Hit Kev now he says that was a joke. Oh, thanks, mate. But anyway, at least we've cleared that one up.
Well, I'd actually heard it from quite a few people over the weekend, just because they don't know who I am and they just chat away, and you walk past and go, "Okay."
Hey, don't get me wrong. I'd love to see Leon. I'd love to see Scott back. He brings people through the gates, and he raises the championship more. Such a great character. Yeah, I'd love to see him back. But that contract is watertight, absolutely watertight.
I've heard that as well.
he has to be on a BMW next year, or it costs them an absolute fortune.
Sorry, I interrupted your flow. Sorry, when I jumped onto that red herring. So you were on a flow. Mind. What was it again you were talking about?
I don't mind. Somebody remind us. Anyway, let's talk about Scott Swan. I'd like to see him on a Bennett's British Superbike next year. And it was alluded to in commentary that he was potentially moving on. So I know Swanee's talking to 2 or 3 BSB teams, and he's on the radar of teams as well. He's a class little rider. He's such a good lad, and he's got a great character as well.
Yeah.
I would love to see Swanee step up and be part of that new young bastion that's coming through from Superstock, and start giving a bit more experience to the younger riders, and it gives Joe someone to focus on. It gives the rookies coming through. They're the only ones that I could really see to have a little bit of a rookie kind of battle.
It was a swan to hawk. Well, I mean, it's interesting that Steve Paul said that, is because those teams have a history of developing younger riders, don't they, and bringing them on and allowing them to blossom. Look at Charlie Nesbitt. You mean, so those are the options.
No, because he's been in the Hawk garage all weekend with the great Tim Neve. He's been working with Tim Neve all year, both on the flat track and on the short circuit. So if anybody's going to have a reasonable insight into that, it's Steve Paul. And you've met Steve. You've met Steve Paul. You've been to our flat track nights.
Oh yeah. They are so much fun. If anybody's listening, go to Boasties. If you live in Lincolnshire, his flat track nights during the winter, they're unbelievable. And by the way, don't believe Dave can ride. Okay, he's ridden around me, and I'm shit. Sorry, but you mean he can?
I'm just slightly less shit. That's all. But then you watch Steve Paul, and then you watch Tim and Tom go through, and then you're just like, I'll leave the bike just there. But we're looking at maybe doing a night or a day at Boasties as part of off track. So,
mate, that would be unbelievable.
We're looking at doing something with some of our followers and supporters, and seeing if we can get a bit of a day together at Boasties and let as many people experience it as possible, because it's such good fun.
Totally.
And Boasties brilliant.
It was 118 at one point there, Dave. That's unbelievable. I'm getting a nosebleed.
It's super impressive.
Okay, so you touched on your winner.
That's been pretty cool. Yeah, go.
So
tell me your winner.
Well, I think mine's probably an obvious one. I've thought about it, but mine has to be Kyle. I've not put him down as my winner. And I've gone back all through my notes on all the review shows we've done. You mean Tommy's been my winner quite a few times. Honda's been my winner. But Kyle, for a young man who is living up to his talent, demonstrating his ability, showcasing his ability, and to do what he did in race 1 under all that pressure, to have that battle in race 2, which was fantastic, and then just he's got a cough. Have a drink, man. And then
that's what caused it.
And then to win race 3. Do you mean? So I'm going to keep talking. No, I mean, so again, I was fortunate enough, breathe, to go into the OMG garage. I was talking to Becky Tyler, the physio, and who works on Kyle and Ryan, and they've got an amazing atmosphere. And we had Cy McAnally up and on stage. One is promoting. If any one of you at Brands, they do their on the Saturday night, they do the auction.
Indeed.
And it's for the British Legion. He told me this year. So that's
excellent. Good.
That's a
Royal British Legion.
Being an ex-serviceman.
No, it's all right. It's all right, Jennifer. I'll just choke while I'm up here. You carry on with the comments. Thank you, darling.
Yeah, she's going, shh, darling.
I'm busy. Thank you, sweetheart. I'm fine.
Well, don't forget, I've married you guys off, so she's hopefully got a good insurance policy. So where was I? So there's a really good vibe in that garage. Now, obviously, winning breeds a winning mentality and everything else. But Sai was saying it's very much like Brad Ray's title winning year. There's that vibe, there's that feel. Do you mean they can't seem to do anything wrong?
No, and this is where there's an awful lot of similarities to that. On Saturday night, we were sat with our great friend Michael Hallam, who great photographer at BSB and supplies our new thumbnails for the YouTube shows that we do. We change the graphics up every now and again, and Michael's kindly sending us photos to use for that. And we were sat chatting away, and Ryan Lilly, OMG Racing's press officer, came along. And I just looked at him, and he had the same look on his face that I had in 2022. And I look at him and go, "You all right?" He went, "Mate, I am knackered." He said, "I just don't know what to do." He said, "I don't know where to put myself." It's emotionally, mentally, and physically draining to be a part of a team that is challenging for a British Superbike title. And just as things start to change in the title chase, with Kyle doing as well as he is, and people starting to believe even more as every race goes past that, hang on a minute, it could be happening again.
Mm-hmm.
And you live and breathe every session, and it's personal. And you could see it in Ryan's eyes. He's going to look older than me by the time we get to race 3 at Brands Hatch. And he's like 22, 23, I think, something like that.
Some of the stuff he puts out is hilarious. Like the little bit with the golf ball, the OMG golf ball, and
he's staying put.
Yeah, yeah. I just thought stuff like that is brilliant.
He's such a great lad. All the time in the world for Ryan Lilly. He works for he's OMG's press officer, but he works at Potsky Media full time under the tutelage of Mark Potter and Ollie Rushby, along with some great guys at Potsky Media. Absolutely brilliant. Tom and the rest of them are absolutely superb. So it's grand. Oh, we got someone there that needs blocking, Jennifer. Get them straight away. Hit them hard. Hit them hard, hit them low, hit them hard, because we don't know who they are. And
so
I don't know.
So yeah, anyway. Kyle's my winner. You had to be, because credit where credit's due. As a roundup, I think Donington was fantastic racing. It was fascinating. One of your, I can't remember who it was. I wish I'd got the name. It mentioned Charlie. One of the things that really made me smile as a fan is that you had Charlie Nesbitt and Max Cook fighting just off, or they were just behind. There was a train of 7 bikes, wasn't there? Or 8
Mike
bikes.
Anderson.
Mike. And I thought, that's the future right there.
100%.
They're learning. They're coming on. They're looking at these guys going, yep, you're going to be going soon. You're going to be going soon. And I'm going to be taking us that place. So it takes a lot
to learn how to ride a British Superbike properly.
Yeah. It puts a smile on my face. This championship is still got, so much.
It is. It has. There's 3 races left, 105 points up for grabs. Kind of technically 15 if you're finishing first and second and everything else. It's going to be an amazing weekend at Brands Hatch. I cannot wait. I can't imagine what we're going to talk about on the Monday after it. It's going to be crackers. There's so much can happen. As Sam said, there's pace car, safety car potential. Because there's so much. It could be weather. There could be mechanicals. There could be falling outs. There could be nerfings. There could be anything, because Brands Hatch lends itself to it.
It does. It does.
Druids, Graham Hill, Surtees, Hawthorns is risky. Westfield is risky. Sheen Curve probably not, but it sets you up for Sterling's. And then that last corner that Jen will really not be happy about me reminding her of, Clearways and into Clark Curve. That run to the line.
Yeah.
There's so much. It's going to be absolutely electric. I just hope it's dry. That's the only thing I hope for. I just want it to be dry. all
Yeah.
weekend, and then everything else is in the lap of the gods and the teams and the riders. It's going to be an amazing finish. Will it trump last year? Quite possibly, because there are more variables at play. It was 2 riders last year.
Yes.
This year it's 3, with teammates coming into play, with Andrew coming into play, with Ryan coming into play. Even though he said on his post-race TV interview and on his socials that he's going there to win races, I think that might change.
Yeah.
I would like to think that he will play the wingman to his teammate and go out on a high, because that's racing.
Yep. And also, there's an old adage, Dave, and I've said this before, you never shit on anyone, because you never know whether they're going to pass you on the way up or on the way down. So if he burns his bridges, he's still a young man. If it doesn't work out, which it hasn't worked out for 2 of our champions in Worlds, if he doesn't get on with the team, crew chief, the language barriers, the bike, there's bye-bye to Ryan then, because is anyone going to take him back? Because he's a one-man band. So it's a tough show. And he's a lovely, lovely guy. I mean, I remember interviewing lots last year, and I just sort of had a newfound respect for someone who's built like a little boy, but it's hard as nails. Do you mean?
Did you just say he was built like a little boy?
Well, he's really slight, isn't he? There's nothing to him. He's just like really skinny and slim.
Ladies and gentlemen, Operation U-Tree.
Yeah, that's it.
The calendar.
I've just gone really red.
The calendar. Sorry, mate. I don't mean to throw you under the bus for that one. The calendar. We're going to Assen in September. How cool. How cool.
I am pissing my pants. That is one of my go-to destinations. And
Groningen. Everybody stay in Groningen. Don't stay in Assen. Stay in Groningen. It's Groningen. The party. It's party town.
Is it?
Party town.
Are you going to be there?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
We're going. Come hell, even if we're not doing this, we're still going.
Yeah, man.
Definitely. There's no reason why we wouldn't be doing this. But we're going.
Cool. So yeah, let's go. So we've got started with Alton, Bank Holiday Monday. Then we go to Donington. Then we've got a big break, and we're going to Snetterton. So Snetterton's the 3rd round.
This is from a BSB perspective, right?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. So you've got Donington in the middle of May.
Let's go through May properly.
Oh, I know. Okay, then you got straight after Donington.
So you got
the
Alton,
Northwest.
No, so you got Alton Park, the Northwest, Donington, MotoGP, and the TT.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Then you got a couple of weeks off before Snet, as you say. Snet and Knockhill have done a swap, haven't they?
Yep.
So we're going to Knockhill in July so we can get more midges, because there weren't enough last year. This year, should I say. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Cadwell's on its usual date. Brands, I think, is on its usual date.
Brands is 1 week later.
And then the Showdown now. Donington isn't part of the Showdown, is it?
No, it's the 4th race.
It's the 4th final race. So the Showdown is Assen, Alton, and Donington. Brands, sorry. Assen, Alton, and Brands. So Alton Park, 3 weeks later than it normally is. I'm devastated because that mid-September round's my favourite.
It's the sunsets, but that's going to throw a whole new variables, because you've got the trees, the leaves. You know what I mean? It's going to be shadowy. It's going to be cold. It's going to be potentially damp at that time of year. You mean that's a risky thing to swap Alton and Donington out. You know what I mean? At least Donington, you know what I mean? You've got the wind that whips through and dries the circuit. There's no areas that are shaded. So that's a brave call from the organisers.
It is, and I'm absolutely sure it'll work. Let's have a look. Nat Mark Dub. It was lovely to meet you both at Melbourne Loop on Friday. Sorry I got tongue-tied, but I hope you understand what I was trying to say. Absolutely, it was great to meet you as well. Thank you. Let's say will be red flags at Alton. Yeah, there will be. It'll be quite bizarre, I'm sure. But I'm looking forward to next season. But we've got to get this season out of the way first. And,
I know.
And don't forget, there's BSB Day at Motorcycle Live as well. Amplified.
Where is that? What is
Birmingham NEC?
Okay.
Motorcycle Live Amplified. That's what they're calling it this year, anyway. So,
are you going to be doing something?
No, I'm not professional enough for that. Nobody's asked me.
Come on, man. Let's put it out there. Let's get Dave hosting.
No, the Dark Wolf of Odin tried. He replied to Motorcycle Live going, "That's Dave Neal. He'd be really good."
Yeah.
Thruxton's still on the calendar, Kirsty. Yeah, that's still there.
Oh, yes. I forgot. Thruxton in August.
Thruxton in August, similar sort of time. So I think the calendar is fair similar, but it's that end, the last 4 rounds that have changed the most, I think. And we've still got the beautiful Cadwell Park on there, which doesn't bring the most entertaining racing, but it's Cadwell Park, the jewel in the crown of my home county of Lincolnshire and not your home county, but your county of domicile. And what is it tomorrow, Kyle?
Yellow Belly Day.
1st of October, Lincolnshire Day.
Lincolnshire Day. There you go. Yes. Grab yourself a Bateman's and walk around and go, all right, me old.
Now, mate.
All right, now. No. Yes, it is. Mick Burrows knows. He always goes, Mick Tan.
Steve Paul. Yeah, Steve Paul the same. Now then, mate. M-A-I-R-T.
Mate.
And Watter and things like that. Guy Martin's your man for that.
It is. We've done 75 minutes and we've got 123 views. Holy moly.
Absolutely incredible. Thank you, everybody.
Wow. Yeah, thank you.
I'll stay on, mate, if you're ready for... You've had a long day.
Man.
A long day. And that's flown by, hasn't it?
It has. Listen, thank you, everybody. Please come up and see us at the fan merch stage. If you've got any questions you want me to ask the riders while I'm up on stage, it'd be great. I love if you get involved. Dave will be up at some point. We always do a little chat.
We'll be there at some point, mate. Absolutely. So excited. Be a pleasure.
Are you going to stay for the party?
No.
Come on.
Jennifer recounted the story a couple of times over the weekend, and there are very good reasons for me not to stay for the end of season party, because I just can't. I just can't.
You've embarrassed yourself, haven't you?
Yeah, I have massively, and it involved Kyle Ryde as well. So, back in 2021, for Taz McKenzie's championship party at McCann's. See, there you go. It's in the comments, ladies and gentlemen, of what I did. He tried to do it to me first.
Mate, that is
talk
gold.
About. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have crossed streams with Kyle. I was very, very drunk.
Yes, you'd have to be. And he was only a kid as well. You took advantage of his inexperience. Jesus, man.
At least I didn't liken him to a young boy.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Well, right. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I love coming on and I love your interaction. And it genuinely, makes an old, bald man very happy.
And we have actually reached our best figures for a live show. So, mate, you're 100% part of that. So thank you. Absolutely brilliant.
And we look forward to seeing you, Dave, and Jennifer, and all you fans at Brands Hatch in 2 weeks, what is going to be an amazing finale of the 2024 Bennett's British Superbike season, and I can't wait.
Absolutely, mate. We'll see you down in the Kent countryside, which is always difficult to say. Don't want to get your mucking furs wuddled on that one.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks as always, mate. I'll stay on for another 10 or 15 minutes and see if there's a couple of questions that want answering. But in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, Kyle Campbell.
Cheerio.
Thanks, man. You can't find the button, can you? Has he gone? I can't tell. There's a happy smiling face that he's got there anyway. Right, let's put some glasses on so I can see. There we are. I can see what's going on now. Thank you, Steve. Kyle's still there. Normally he disappears and it just becomes one picture, so we can just look at his happy smiling face at the time. He still appears on my screens, but hopefully that he's gone from your screens. I thoroughly enjoyed that. Time passed absolutely. It's getting better and better and better. And to have, almost 120 people sat watching us waffle on about British Superbikes is absolutely brilliant. So thank you, everybody. Absolutely brilliant. And Maggie, everybody, Big Hit Kev, they can't see him. Okay, that's fine. I can still see him on mine, but luckily it's frozen in time. So, but as we said, what a weekend. Just incredible. And as Sam Palmer says, there's no better than chatting crap about bikes. There's literally nothing on telly tonight. It is quiz night tonight on BBC Two, by the way. But we'll watch that later on. Universally challenged when just answering one question is a bit of a win. And that only connect thing, I'm not very good at that. Not very good at that at all. So thank you for joining us and missing out on all of those. Over the weekend, if you remember, those of you that were with us at the end of the show a couple of weeks ago, we floated the idea of doing Off Track Live, doing a live show at a small venue with a couple of hundred people, and bringing a guest along and doing what we do on the video in front of a live crowd. That has taken a step forward over the weekend. We have a venue secured in the pretty much the centre of the UK. And we also have a date. We don't have a guest yet, but it'd be interesting if we do put tickets on sale to see how many would take us up on the evening without knowing who the guest is. We've made inquiries into how much it would cost to bring particular guests along, and it will be somebody from the top end of the British Superbike Championship, or it will be a legend, or it will be somebody of note that we will have on the show. And again, it's as we've said so many times. We'll stop playing with that cable. As we've said so many times, it's not the Dave Neal show. It's Off Track Live. It's your show. We bring it out for you, fine listeners and viewers, to bring you the stories of the riders and to do something live. We've been to a couple that MJK do, and it was just a thought that we have our little. May mention that, Pete. Please, you may mention that. Thank you, Maggie. So I was just reading through the comments then. It would be nice to, like Gary Williams says, see Jim Witt on the other side of the mic. He's brilliant at interviewing riders, but he has such an amazing story himself. Kyle and waterproof shoes. Yeah, thanks, Phil. But we're going to do it. We're definitely going to do it. And if it works on this first effort, then we will do more across the country. We will go to the places where the riders are. Rather than doing a big tour with one rider, we would go to the area where the rider's from to begin with and just see how we get on with the local area. If we went to Cambridge, Stavros would be one of them, Kev, without a doubt. That's the kind of thing. So if we're down in Swindon, you'd look at Tommy Bridewell. If we were down in Kent, you'd look at Brad Ray or Terry Reimer and people like that. So that's kind of the general premise of what we do. But the ball's started rolling. The venue that we're looking at is in a place called Lutterworth, near Hinckley. So it's fairly central. It's not a million miles from too many people, and I think it seats about 150. So as a taster evening, we will be doing that on the 31st of January, which I'm so excited for. Really, really excited to do that. Just sitting there chatting live, getting an audience involved, getting some merchandise from the people coming in, and chance to ask your questions as well. Yeah, Rutter's not far away. There's plenty going on. There's plenty going on. So I can see plenty of you already that are saying that you're in. So thank you. Honestly, it means a huge amount. We keep this thing going as long as we can. We'll keep it rolling. We've got some great plans for the winter with guests as well as the live show. So this isn't going to change. I can't wait to bring you the chat with Josh Brooks next week. I just dropped my pen. 2 3/4 hours. I think I've not really known of an interview that kind of brings out Josh's character. Not bigging myself up. It was just the way that the questions were phrased and how he was talking. And we just threw a couple of questions in to go, okay, well, why did that happen? And why is this? But it's the first time I've ever been in an interview. And I don't like them interviews. They sound too formal. It's the first time I've ever been in a rider chat and not asked certain questions. I've deliberately not asked questions because I knew that would extend the time that we had. We could have done 4-5 hours easy with Josh. There's another good couple of 2 or 3 hour episodes in there with him. He's got so much to say, and he's so eloquent with how he describes it. The last time I did a one-to-one with Josh was 2014. Some of you might have seen it on social media when I posted it on Facebook. It was 2014 back at Brands Hatch in the championship challenge year. And I think Shaky won it that year. I think 2014 was the year that Josh put out the camera roll with pictures of Shaky's wife on it, and it all got a little bit funky on the Saturday night before the race. It was only 2 races back then, wasn't it, on the Sunday? And he's such a fascinating character. Some of the things that he explains of how he is and how he's the way he is, and I asked him if he was misunderstood, and the answers he gave were absolute class. And the final story, you have to wait 2 hours and 45 minutes for it, but the very last story he told was absolute gold. About Macau. We didn't even get that far. He just finished off with that story. He wanted to finish off on a positive note. And the patrons, all their questions got asked. So thank you to those of you watching who are patrons. Hugely appreciated. If anybody wants to join the Patreon scheme, I'm going to do a bit of selling now. Click in the description, have a look in the links. We've got a Patreon page for early access and asking questions of the guests, and the same on YouTube as well if you want early access to the videos. It's all on there in YouTube membership. And I believe, if I'm right and everything's worked, that Fraser Rogers will already be up there. I know Maggie replied to the Fraser Rogers story earlier on. That's another great chat. That boy has got some talent, and it's an interesting chat about how the motorcycle career can take a dip, can take a bit of a hit on it, but still come back swinging and get that. Probably his last chance at the time when he took the ride with Tag Honda. That was probably his last chance to get into Superbikes. If this didn't work, then that would be it for Fraser Rogers, which would be a huge shame. And to hear the story of his legs and the condition that they're in at this point in time, I don't know if we'll see him at Brands. He's in an awful lot of pain, and he's completely underestimated just how severe the injuries to his legs are. Having watched him climb the stairs into the FS3 recording studio that we have, a big thank you to Darren and Kirsty and the team at FS3 Completely Motorbikes Kawasaki for letting us record in their little room with Josh Brooks. There was people knocking on the door at one point asking if we were okay. Maybe we'd run out of oxygen or something like that. But it was brilliant, and it's a great place to do it. And Maggie has said there, yes, it is there. Dante Inferno, yeah, great, thanks mate, all the best. And the Patreon one out as well. Ellis, thank you for that. So yeah, it's out there for Fraser Rogers, so enjoy it. Sign up if you enjoy what we do, and help keep the podcast flowing. Brands Hatch, 2 weeks or 10 days time before we go down there. There's still MotoGP going, there's still World Superbikes going. We try and cover everything we can. But sometimes we just don't have the time to be able to make it all work. It's been a busy day today getting Fraser edited and done, but it's out there. And I've got to make a start on Josh on Wednesday, because tomorrow we're heading to York. I say we, it's the royal we, it's just I, because Jennifer has a real job. We're going over to York to Optimum Bikes to sit down with one of the team members of the 2024 Endurance World Championship, Dan Linfoot. We're going over to see Linny tomorrow and have a chat with him, see what's going on there, talk about the end of last season and kind of the redemption for him becoming Endurance World Champion with the Yoshimura Suzuki team. Michael Hallam can't wait for Brands. That place is magical. That's because you're a southerner and that's your neck of the woods, because you're south of the river, mate. I'm not going to apologise for that either. Michael Hallam feels about Brands the way I feel about Cadwell and Alton Park. So, yeah, we're with Dan Linfoot tomorrow. The questions are out for the patrons. Most of them have replied, I think. Thank you very much. So we'll put those to Linny tomorrow. Looking forward to seeing him. Looking forward to catching up. Josh Brooks will be out the week after. We've a couple of chats lined up at Brands Hatch already. No, Falkland Village Hall, mate. Falkland Village Hall. Jason O'Halloran is one if he's at Brands. Typical look for him over the weekend. We didn't really get a chance to talk about that much, did we? The issues that he's had, the injuries, it was such a slow speed crash, and then for him to run into Christian's Ducati pummeling Christian and fracturing his foot, and then Jason displacing the ligament on his shoulder. Neither of those boys go down without a fight. They are two of the toughest riders that I've ever met. And Jason with his fingers would have curtailed most people's season, let alone come back at the next round with splints on where the ligaments had separated in his fingers. So it's a big hit if it's going to keep both boys out of Brands. We'll wait and see. It remains to be seen. We don't know whether they will. But you would suggest that might be Jason's season done, and maybe Christian as well if they don't get the healing process as quick as they should do. Crikey, that took some getting out, didn't it? Right, that's me for this evening. I think we covered most of your questions, and certainly Jennifer did downstairs. So thank you, Jennifer, downstairs. Thank you, darling. Put the kettle on for a hot chocolate, or as an Errol, as we call them. Oh, Paul Atkinson, how are you? Nice to see you. And ladies and gentlemen, I saw him pop up earlier on. The Art of Billy. Billy Art, one of the great artists of the motorcycle world and a great friend of ours. Billy, it's great to have you along, mate. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate that, mate. And I hope you're well. We will catch you after Brands Hatch. I cannot wait. We might do another solo show at some point in the winter as well. That was well received. Thank you for all your kind comments on that. Even though the first 5 or 10 minutes were a little bit ropey because it was me sat here kind of doing this weirdly, sat in the back bedroom looking at myself on my phone. But my battery is about to die on the phone. I've got 5% left. So rather than disappearing without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been the best watch show we've done. Thank you to Kyle Campbell. Thank you to Jennifer. And thank you to all of you. Absolutely brilliant. We couldn't do what we do without you. So thank you for joining in. We'll catch up on the comments and enjoy the rest of the night. We'll look forward to seeing those of you at Brands who are going to be there. If not, enjoy it on the TV. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.